And happy Wednesday. Greetings to all of you here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I am Steve Deace. He is Todd Erzin. He is Aaron McIntyre. And we are with you here for the next 2 hours. We'll get as much done as we can, and then we'll do an overtime for Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/Deace. We are brought to you by our good friends over at Preborn, who are taking ground in the fight for life, doing soul-to-soul combat with the spirit of the age, reaching moms before they make the decision to murder their baby. With the truth. They confront them with the truth via ultrasound. They hear that heartbeat, and now they know that is not a glob of tissue. That is another person, and that is a real person. And then the majority of the time when they choose life, then they provide grace as well. They're there for support for the mom and her baby, sometimes for up to 2 years. Into the baby's life, prenatal care, postnatal care, the ultrasounds, all of this is free of charge to the mom and her baby. But this stuff, none of it is actually free. And that's where you and I come in. And you guys have been so great and so generous already helping Preborn to save tens of thousands of babies. Let's save tens of thousands more. Make a tax-deductible donation today to preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve. Or you can dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby on your mobile phone. Pound 250 keyword baby on your mobile phone here as well. All right, coming up on today's show, the return of the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. This is the most bipolar polling cycle I have ever seen. And we'll see if we can make some sense of it with Daniel coming up here in the final segment of the show. We're also Daniel's got a great review out of several amendment battles around the country we need to have our eyes on as well, like Amendment 4 in Florida, for example. So we'll get into that with him. We will play buy, sell, or hold. So we'll get into what you want us to get into here, beginning at the bottom of the hour. But let us begin with what Aaron wants us to get into. Here's Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by the Presidential Seal of Approval. Yesterday, I told you about how Kamala is trying to cook up that fake narrative. Somehow, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is selfish in playing political games ahead of what looks like a historic Hurricane Milton. DeSantis, as you saw yesterday, absolutely destroyed her as a result. Well, later on in the day, DeSantis got a helmet sticker from Kamala's boss.
The governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday. And I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it. And I literally gave my personal phone number to call.
Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall tonight. It's currently a Category 4 storm. The Justice Department announced charges against a citizen of Afghanistan residing in Oklahoma City for conspiring to conduct an Election Day terrorist attack in the United States on behalf of ISIS. According to a criminal complaint filed, Nassar Ahmad Tawidi, a 27-year-old, conspired and attempted to provide material support to ISIS and obtained firearms and ammunition to conduct a violent attack on U.S. soil in the name of ISIS. As part of the plot, the defendant allegedly took steps to liquidate his family's assets, resettle members of his family overseas, acquire AK-47s, and commit a terrorist attack in the United States. This individual came to the United States from Afghanistan just a few weeks after the United States botched pullout from that godforsaken country. Kamala Harris, your thoughts?
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
And she was asked the exact same question on The Late Show.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of... Yes. But also, I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
Moving on, Teamsters Union President Sean O'Brien is really pissed at the Democrat Party.
I'll be honest with you, I'm a Democrat, but they have f***ed us over for the last 40 years, and for once, and not all of them, but for once, we're standing up as a union, probably the only one right now, saying, what the f*** have you done for us?
Yeah.
And I'm getting attacked from the left. And we've given, since I've been in office 2.5 years, we've given the Democratic machine $15.7 million. We've given Republicans about $340,000, truth be told. So it's like, people say the Democratic Party is the party of the working people. They're bought and paid for by big tech, those big tech companies.
Yeah, tech is the new fossil fuel, man.
Right?
That's what I say.
Right. And you've got the Republicans who are now saying, hey, we want to be the working class party, right? And okay, you've got a great opportunity right now to do that. And the Democrats, if 60% of our members aren't supporting you, the system's broken. Yeah. You needed to fix it. Stop pointing fingers at Sean O'Brien. Stop pointing fingers at the Teamsters Union. Look in the mirror.
In other news, a Christian cake baker has finally defeated legal harassment from the LGBTQIAZD movement after fighting in court for more than a decade. Jack Phillips was sued in 2012 for refusing to create a cake for a so-called same-sex couple at his Masterpiece Cake Shop in Colorado, and then later sued for refusing to create a cake celebrating a so-called transgender transition. Attorneys for Alliance Defending Freedom have defended Phillips for 12 years. On Tuesday, the Colorado Supreme Court dismissed the second lawsuit after saying the attorney who filed the lawsuit didn't follow the proper process to do so. Phillips won the first lawsuit in 2018 after a court found that officials acted with hostility against his faith. Checking in on this University of Kansas professor.
Guys are smarter than girls. You got some serious problems. That's what frustrates me. There are going to be some males in our society that will refuse to vote for a potential female president because they don't think females are smart enough to be president. We could line all those guys up and shoot them. They clearly don't understand the way the world works. Did I say that? Scratch that from the recording. I don't want the deans hearing that I said that.
And finally, this from the Babylon Bee. Tim Walz pulling strong among men who choose the middle urinal. And that's what happened while we were away.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I had not seen that. Oh, my gosh. I got to get my composure here for a second. Oh, my. Oh, my. Okay. Let's. That's so good. That is so good. Holy cow. That is so good. All right. Let me start with this. I wish Election Day were right now. Well, it is. All right. We're voting almost everywhere in America now. All right. So it is. But you guys know what I mean. I mean, I wish it was Election Day right now. I said yesterday, gentlemen, that, you know, I don't know how much we're going to be able to trust data down the stretch here, and we'll get into that with Daniel later. And I gave the audience a disclaimer. You're going to hear a lot from me, phrases that I'm not really comfortable saying, okay, but it feels like, or I sense that, right, you know, because we're going to have to do this more instinctively than anything else. I think. I don't know how much the data can be trusted. And I've got a few theories. One of them, of course, psyops. But there's some other rational explanations that may explain the bipolar nature of the polling we're seeing right now, where there's a poll for every narrative you want. Every narrative you want, there is a poll for. Okay. So I don't know how reliable data is going to be. So I think we're going to have to do a lot of this instinctively. And I said yesterday at this time that instinctively it felt like her campaign was on the defensive for the very first time. And I think I feel that instinctively all the more because they're really rolling her out. And we know fully that these are people, these are the kinds of forces that they will run basement campaigns and hide their candidate if they can get away with it, right? We've seen this, right? So we know that they will do that. So then ask yourself, why are they not doing it here? And she is getting tripped up, by the way, in front of some very favorable faces. The View yesterday asking her, what's different from you and Joe Biden? Stephen Colbert, there is no cause of the spirit of the age that Stephen Colbert will not simp for. I mean, he's an ankle grabber as the day is long. He asked her the same question as well. Don't you guys think, and I'm asking myself too, I understand that we're not her target demo, okay? That there is another America out there. Like the DeSantis stuff with her yesterday, as much as DeSantis clobbered her, I don't know that that hurts her all that much, because there's another America out there that wants to believe what her side of the story, regardless of the evidence. But that was before Joe Biden spoke up yesterday, which I'll have something to say about that here in a minute. So just put a bookmark there for a second. Hell hath no fury like a Biden scorned. But they're rolling her out in front of favorable audiences. And I mean, sending her to a slut cast while people are drowning in battleground states. I have no idea. Maybe these people are morons, idiots. Well, I've often thought that they were, actually. I don't think they're sinister masterminds. I've gone up against more of these people than most people in this industry have. I've gone up against them in multiple campaigns on the ground. I've gone up against them multiple times on their own networks. And I think we have this notion that they're the Nephilim. No, they're just often not opposed. This goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. Guess who wins the fight? The side who shows up or the side who never does? Well, the side who never does isn't winning any of those, and the side who always does is undefeated. These are jock sniffers, the guys who carried your bags. They were your team manager on your high school football Friday night. That's who we're up against. All right? I mean, this is the worst conquering force in the history of this planet. We've just been MIA. We can't be bothered for the most part. It's Fox News and chill. That's kind of been our activism for the last going on 3 decades for the most part. Now, some people are trying to stop that and trying to do something about that. And we're here to support all those efforts and have and will continue to do so. But I can just tell you, going up against these forces in campaigns, I'll just give you one example. 14 years ago, I remember getting ready to do interviews and debates with former Supreme Court justices in the state of Iowa over the retention election. And I remember thinking, man, I barely made it out of community college. I got thrown out of university for not attending a single class. These guys served on the state Supreme Court in the past. They've passed bar exams. Okay, they're way smarter than me. There's got to be things they don't know, and I can't even prepare for this conversation because I can't even begin to know what it is that I don't know. And then the conversation began, and it was very clear. There's no there. It's just all what I want to be true. There's no alternative stream of fact or information they have access to come off the top rope and embarrass you with it. You're not going to get depanted. And that the reason why everything's racist, and the reason why everything's sexist, and the reason why everything's homophobic, and the reason why everything's transphobic, and the reason why everyone's a Nazi, and the reason why everyone's a fascist is it's not because they decided, we've got these really great arguments, but we're going to hold on to those for a while and go with these really stupid, banal insults instead. No. It's because that's all they have. And most of us are just so terrified of being called those things, we will fetal position on cue. And if you don't care, and if you're not, okay, that's great, cool. Anyway, back to the point. There's nothing there. There's nothing else there. I promise you. I did over 50 appearances on MSNBC, guys. There's nothing else there. There's nothing else there. I promise you. The American left is like this bully we had in high school or in middle school at Jackson Park Junior High, and his name was Bud. I remember his last name too because it's seared in my memory banks. But just in case Bud turned his life around, I won't give it out. Here's hoping he did. And Bud got held back like 1 or 2 grades, so he's a grown ass man, and we're in the 7th grade now. And what Bud would do is he'd walk down the hallway and just lob his his shoulder right into your chest in front of everybody. Just walk right through you. And it hurt like hell. And you're 12 years old, man, and you're like, it hurts. You're trying not to cry. You're not a dude. You're not yet a boy. You're in that in-between stage where you want to cry like you're a little boy, but you know you're not supposed to because you're almost a dude, right? You know, but it hurts like hell. And he would just find you out, and no one would stand up to him. One day, a guy named Jason did. And beat the living crap out of Bud, in fact. Beat the living crap out of him. And everybody was so stunned because people were terrified of Bud for months. And everybody was so stunned that when they saw Ivan Drago was right, or Rocky was right about Ivan Drago, he bleeds like I bleed. When he saw that, kids down there on the floor crying. Other kids now are walking up to him, getting their kicks in, getting their licks in. Like, and that was for last week. That's the American left, guys. I promise you. And I'm the guy that tells you when we're screwed, I will tell you. I'm the guy that tells you that's not going to work. I'll tell you. I'm the guy that tells you you nominated the wrong candidate. He sucks. And we just blew the opportunity. Gentlemen, Todd and Aaron, have I demonstrated I will go to war with my own audience if I think I am right and they are wrong? Have I proven that? And I don't. How many more times do I have to do so, do you think?
A bit.
At least once more.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this one. There's nothing there. Nothing. Now, unfortunately, we have waited so long to call this bluff that we're getting to the point where some things are there. Jail. Knocks on the door. We let ourselves get intimidated by this house of cards for so long that now they are acquiring the real power to do the stuff that we thought they were going to do to us 10, 15, 20 years ago. And there's just no, they did not. But there's still some of a window to push back. There's no there. And when you look at how she is performing, she's just that dumb. It's entirely possible her advisors are just that dumb. Entirely possible. Biden's been president for 4 years. Have you come away from one single White House press briefing thinking, man, these people are smart? One in 4 years. Yeah, me neither. Because she is clearly on the defensive right now. There's nothing there. I wish we were voting right now. Which brings me to Joe Biden. So, once is a coincidence. A couple times might be a trend. So Kamala clearly was trying to differentiate herself from Joe Biden, pushing back on the Trump campaigns, branding her as a power source of the administration, that this is really these are really Kamala's policies. And they have been trying for the last few weeks, the Democrats have, to push back on that and say that's not true. That she's the candidate of change, not the one that's been in the White House the last few years. So what does Joe Biden get up there and do? There's not anything I've done that Kamala wasn't there the whole time and supportive of. Okay, you're kind of thinking. Dude is senile. Yeah, he might think he's helping her. Possible. So I saw some people on our side making hay with that, and I kind of thought, yeah, I get it. That's kind of election year, BS. But chances are he thinks this is helping her, giving her gravitas. So I didn't pay it any mind. But then, guys, yesterday happened. I've worked great with DeSantis. He's got a direct line to me. Haven't had any issues. He does a great job with these tragedies. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. Okay, now. Can't spin that. That's not helping anybody. Well, it's helping us. All right? It's helping us. All right? And this is, by the way, after DeSantis invoked Biden. I mean, he could have even said, don't drag me into it, man. Come on, man. I'll challenge Ron to some push-ups. Could have done that. Could have deflected. Instead, he was like, Aaron described it. Actually, I just gave Ron another helmet sticker. Great job, Governor. I don't know, man. Any chance that the Bidens are like, listen, we're not communists. We are limousine liberals. And we use this ties into the union guy. We use those people to get power. Screw them over when we get in office. And then cut deals like Burisma to enrich ourselves. And we walk out of here like 10 times what we were worth when we walked in. And this party's been taken over by crazy nutbags, and I had to play along all these years to get where I was at. And then and I did that. I was the good soldier, man. I mandated your jab. I opened your border. I did everything you guys wanted me to do because Jill and I like living here. And then you guys knife us. You knife us. You prosecute my son. I got something for that ass on the way out. Any chance at all that's what's going on here?
Hi.
Yes.
And really? So you guys absolutely buy into
Don't
this.
forget last week, while all the networks were tuned into Kamala's Michigan rally, that's when Joe Biden decided for the first time in his presidency to take the stage at the White House briefing room.
That's right.
You're never going to.
I forgot about that.
You're never going to convince me. You're never going to convince me that it was not the plan for Biden to not endorse Kamala Harris. I don't think his immediate endorsement of Kamala Harris was part of the cabal's plan at all. They wanted this thing to go to the convention. They wanted all of the melodrama, all of the media coverage, all of the intrigue. They wanted that buildup, and Biden from the get-go nixed that. You're never going to convince me that that was not in the plans.
Aaron, that is a great. I hadn't even put those two events together. You nailed that, dude. So that's 3. All right. Now I'm all in on this now. Those 3 things. Now we're at. You know what? I'm a big rule of 3 guy. Those 3 things all happening in a truncated window cannot be a coincidence. Cannot be.
Yeah. What you said, that they would be anything and say anything to live in that place. That's a perfect way of putting it. And when that's the exact kind of person who would do something like this. This isn't calculus you're doing. This is simple math. Somebody put a perfect meme about what this is. You remember at the last? Well, I think I don't even know if you watched the whole thing. I think you just know the bare outlines. But the last season of Game of Thrones, this old matriarch lady who had been a puppet master behind the scenes of everything, she's finally caught, and it's time, and she's going to die. She's forced to drink poison, but she admits right then and there to Jamie that Joffrey, the boy king, she's the one who made sure he died. And she goes, tell Cersei, I want her to know it was me. And somebody posted that old lady's picture and put Jill's face on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, man. Wow, I didn't even know about the connection of his timing because I thought that is very strange. He's doing a White House press briefing the first time in his presidency. He's openly talking about he can't guarantee it'll be a peaceful election and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, what? I thought it was odd. Oh, I forget one more thing.
Yes. Everybody's right. Why was she picked? She's a total sellout, and she's even dumber than him. She was never a threat. And then he's going to lose to her? Nah.
One more thing. I got to find this. Let me find it in my feed because I want to make sure I have this policy exactly correct. Hold on a second here while I'm killing time. Here it is. Yesterday, the Biden administration dropped support for a ceasefire in Lebanon and is now backing Israeli incursions to degrade Hezbollah's infrastructure there in Lebanon. That's not going to be very popular with the Muslim community there in the battleground state of Michigan. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's four. All right, you guys have convinced me. I'm in on this. I am in on this. You know what? You know what the ultimate bird flip would be from the Bidens? Pardon Hunter Biden. Couple days right before the election. Just go full Comey letter. And you pardon Hunter right before the election.
You just for your own sanity, you need to pull back on the reins a little bit because
am I fetishizing now?
Just remember that our side that sits on the sidelines for decades could still lose to all this. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. You only get to be this dumb.
That's why I said I wish we were voting right now. Well, we are, but I wish this was the election today. That's why, because you can feel we've got momentum right now, and that's why I wish we were voting right now. Aaron, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only reason, if they are this dumb, as you were pontificating or speculating about just a few moments ago, the only reason why you get to be this dumb at this level is because you're facing a bunch of people who are absolute cowards and or couch potatoes. That's the only reason you get away being this dumb or stupid, if that's what's really happening.
So let's go real quick. Are these interviews she's doing, are they blunders? Because are they blunders through the prism of our belief system and the America that we're a part of? Or are they objectively blunders that transcend the irreconcilable differences here? You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I tend to think that these are the moves of a campaign that is on the defensive, because if you are in complete and total control, you don't want to risk that at all. That's hence the basement campaigns that we've seen Joe Biden run. There is an alternative hypothesis that was submitted via buy-seller hold that we'll probably get into in the next segment or the segment after that. But yeah, okay. I tend to think that this is, I'm trying to look at this through the normie lens. That's so hard because I don't even know what a normie is anymore. Right. But I mean, my wife was telling me from what she's seen from the Call Her Daddy podcast, she's seeing accounts that she thinks generally are leftward leaning, just panning that appearance because it's so tone deaf as to what's happening right now in Appalachia. So I don't know if, again, that's anecdotal, but I tend to think that these are the moves of a campaign that is worried, for sure.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, you can say the margin of cheating is clearly closing, which is why they're just not hiding her anymore. And she's out like this. But, you know, these aren't... Is that a blunder, though? I mean, she can't rise above... There's nobody left to sleep with. She can't rise above who she is. This is just...
She's the Peter principle, literally, is what you're saying.
This is just who she is. Yeah. So... but again, when you are the electorate that we've diagnosed on the show 100 different times,
I know
they're used to winning with dumb. They're used to winning with lies. See, that's the thing.
Know.
This is why this is not an election. This is a trial of the American people. What are we prepared to do?
I know. And that's why I wish we were voting right now. Okay. Because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think these are disastrous, absolutely disastrous. But I also have to recognize I'm from an America that another half, at least of America, is not a part of and doesn't want to be. And so, you know, it's even hard to do analysis when the social compact is broken because, you know, are you guys getting high on your own supply or is it real? More in a moment. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, and we are powered by our friends over at Jace Medical. As you watch supply chains reach their breaking point with more natural disasters, more geopolitical unrest, and then, frankly, a national healthcare structure we learned during COVID we just can't trust. Make sure you've got the peace of mind that you need. Get backups of some of the most famous, successful antibiotics in human history, and then also backups of the meds that you need as well. They've got an expanding menu of medications now that you can get to customize your Jace case from Jace Medical. Go to jace.com, J-A-S-E, jace.com/Deace. Do not delay. How many more of that? Well, that could never happen here. Do we need to see? All right, and see happen here. Not to mention, it is entirely possible that if we get the election outcome we want, an open trade war with China could commence. We were on the brink of one when Trump was president the first time pre-COVID, which is probably why they leaked the virus. I'm sorry, is this on? Anyway, that's also, by the way, the Chinese would have some leverage they might try in that event. They're responsible for about 70% of the world's antibiotic supply. So there's that. All right. So jace.com, J-A-S-E, jace.com/Deace is where you want to go, and use the code Deace for a discount there at checkout. Jace.com, J-A-S-E, jace.com/Deace, promo code Deace at checkout for the discount. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to some buy, sell, or hold. And here's how this works. You guys create the submissions. You give them to Aaron. Aaron then decides which submissions we are going to confront here and discuss on the show. Todd and I will then determine, are we going to buy it? Are we going to sell it? We'll even explain why. If, however, you choose to hold, then you have completely and totally violated the dude code. You have emasculated yourself. You have punked out, and therefore you must be punished. And this week, your punishment is that you will share the middle stall with Tim Walz. Share a stall. Todders, and your thoughts.
There will be no dancing to that.
Okay. Let's go, Aaron.
We begin with our colleague Ashton DeGroot, who has this. The hit movie this summer was about how we can manipulate the weather. It's possible, buy, sell, or hold, that these hurricanes were either created or manipulated by the deep state to be this aggressive and devastating in an effort to affect the election.
I am buying in the loosest possible terms. I mean, it's hurricane season. I don't believe they were created, but like there's been weather controlling experiments going on for a very long time. So, and after watching what they did with COVID, it's within the hearts of these evil bastards to try. So I'm buying.
I have no way of proving if this is the case or not. And this is actually, I've read today from someone pushing back on the global warming scam. This is very reminiscent of the hurricane season that was had in 2004, by the way, which actually is another election year. So Ashton's like, see? Okay, so I don't know. Here's what I do know, and here's what I've learned over the last few years. If the spirit of the age did have the ability to do something like this, it would. I don't know that it does, okay? But because I believe, after I watched them take a Nobel Prize-winning drug and completely retcon it as horse paste, take a black box, a failed cancer drug with a black box warning, retcon that as a COVID treatment that did nothing but destroy your kidneys if it did anything. As I watched them say for 8 months during the worst pandemic in 100 years that we have no way of treating pulmonary inflammation other than just go home and wait till you can't breathe at all, come back, we'll put you on a ventilator, and then, we'll be back in the smoke. We'll be on smoke breaks flipping coins whether you're going to walk out of here alive or not in a few days. I could go on and on and on and on. On and on and on and on and on. 400 pages of on and on and on and on. Co-wrote that book last year. National bestseller, Rise of the Fourth Reich. So I could do a lot of on and on and on. After all of that, I do believe the forces trying to destroy Western civilization, and this country in particular, would do anything they have the means to do so. And so I don't know that they have the means to do that with this, but I'll buy because of the motivational aspect to this.
Bond villains are absolutely real.
Next, we go to Micah, who says Vance should be the perpetual GOP vice presidential candidate. Young guy, no term limits, no baggage, and just moderate enough to allow for DeSantis-esque candidates to run more to the right and make conservative policy.
It's an interesting proposal, but you're going to sell. You go first then. Go ahead.
Sal, don't get too widgety. Don't mass produce these. We're always fighting the old war. You have to be nimble. He's done great. He was a good choice. Let that be enough. You're going to have to make a good choice again in the future, and it's not necessarily going to be the same choice or for the same reasons. I mean, come on. We thought we knew politics, and then Donald Trump came along, guys. No, there's no there. I mean, you have your fundamental principles, but after that, you got to be nimble.
You're probably right, but I'm going to buy, even if I don't agree with the analysis, I appreciate trying to do things like this. I think this kind of strategizing is and thinking forward into the future rather than just, again, being a reactionary is not inherently bad. Someone breaks into your home, wants to do damage to you and your family, okay? Then, you need to react. Okay. Now, you also, though, can't fundamentally be reactionary. You can't always be on the defensive. You can't always do that. Right. Okay. So it's not inherently immoral or bad to be reactionary. Often some great things in human history occur because people are reacting to evil. On the other hand, you can't be caught flat-footed all the time either. And because eventually you'd run out of reactions and now you're just getting ambushed. So I like the fact that he's thinking ahead. And I think there's at least some wisdom to this to consider moving forward. Whether I agree in totality with the proposition specifically, I'd have to contemplate it further. But I like the fact that you're thinking ahead, brother. So I'll give you a buy, just in appreciation of that.
All right, next up we go to Greg Gatto, who says the entire DACE team is terrified of answering this question. And it's the meme of the goose chasing someone, asking the question, who appointed Birx to the COVID task force? Buy, sell, or hold. The entire DACE team is terrified of answering that question.
Are there wasps over there?
I'm sorry. I was just so terrified of answering that question. I didn't.
This is so dumb. Yeah. We never criticize Trump for COVID or for anything. My goodness, you people are idiots.
That's why I'm live from Mar-a-Lago every day. Live from Mar-a-Lago every day, guys. Yep. Did you guys see that Truth Social post Trump put out for Nefarious? Finally got him to see the film. I was wondering how many more sellouts I was going to take.
Finally.
Of course, now it's too late now. We're past really all the monetization windows for the film, but good to see the Orange Man giving us the validation we have long been seeking. So it was all worth it now that we have his approval.
There is not an insignificant number of people who are going to take what you just said seriously.
Oh, I know.
And go and check.
I know. Yeah.
Or probably not check for themselves. Yeah.
Yes. There'll be some Anon accounts will be taking this clip and spreading it out.
Yeah.
This week, later today. Looking forward to that. Yeah. Yep.
Let me just, with my answer, reset something I said last week. Most of you people, God bless you for figuring COVID out, but it's the minority of you who are like me, who were an anti-vaxxer beforehand. Most of you, if you have kids, most of you probably vaccinated them. Okay, but why am I giving grace on stuff like this? Because I know how low the bar is. I've seen it for years, folks. It is very, very hard for people to smash this idol. It absolutely needs to be smashed. Absolutely. But so many people are addicted and confused to the witch's brew of Western medicine. So this, I'll tell you, as I've said before, one of my greatest fears was after COVID. And just because things are happening so fast, as smart as Principal Steve is, I wasn't sure he was going to be able to get it in time. And I knew this was one of my hills to die on. And what I saw Steve do in real time was a damn miracle. From an act of conscience, from just downloading data. Man, I mean, no one's tried harder than this show to get this thing figured out and also to offer grace as much as possible. So, honestly, you're a damn fool because what I just said is the truth and you're a liar.
I threw it all the way, though, Todd. I threw it all the way for the approval of the Orange Man and his MAGA brigade.
And for the grift, which apparently you're hoarding, because where the hell are the coattails on that grift, man? Where?
It's in the mail. Orange check is in the mail. All right. Orange check in the mail. Yes.
All right, next up we go to Nate. Todd will become a Protestant before Steve gets invited to speak at CPAC.
No.
That is tremendousness. Tremendousness. All right, I need a point of order, okay? What happens if there's no more CPAC? Right? Does that mean since I can't get invited there, that's forever then, right? If CPAC ceases to, because I'm going to tell you right now, I think there's a real chance that is in the immediate future. I shouldn't say immediate, not too distant future. I think there's a real chance of that.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I know. So what would happen? Do we have a point of order? Is that factored into the calculus? If CPAC just goes away, then does that mean that this is now a null and void proposition, or it's forever ongoing? I can't ever get there as a speaker because it doesn't exist.
Well,
see what I'm saying?
It has to be ongoing. This thing transcends.
In that case,
time
then
and
if it's
space.
ongoing,
Yeah.
in that case, I will buy. Okay.
If that happens, then it's forever, just like I'm forever right now. So.
All right, next up we go to Noel Olind, who says Kamala Harris is crumbling so badly, there's actually a chance they replace her with Biden.
That's good. That
is good. That is very good. Could you guys imagine that, man? Holy crap. That's too crazy for even this cycle, isn't it? It has to be. It has to be. It's crazy. Okay. I'm going to sell, but man, I appreciate the snark. The snark level on that is a Babylon Bee level. In fact, you might have come up with a Babylon Bee headline before they did,
yes,
brother.
That's why I'm
that's how
buying.
good that is. Yeah, that's how good that is.
Next up, we go to Data Masks, who says the annual change of Christmas decoration sales to earlier and earlier in the year is a cheapening of the reason for the season, designed to dilute its significance and relevance.
Buy. That's obviously so.
I think it's a sell that even if that is its intent, we so desperately need more of that light in our culture right now. I mean, I can't even tell you what going to Frankenmuth over my birthday weekend to the Bronner's, which is the largest Christmas store in the world, just what that did, man, in terms of just refreshing my spirit, brother. I don't know how else to put it. That was almost like a spiritual retreat, just to be around people and, hope and optimism, so you're probably right that is its intent. But what men make for evil, intend for evil, God uses for good. And I'm going to also go with our Romans 8:28 that we sign off with as well. Okay, so I think we need a lot more Christmas, or at least what it represents in our lives as Americans. And that's me speaking even aside from being a Christmas slap. I just, I didn't just enjoy it there. I walked out of that Christmas store feeling refreshed, like I'd been to a Bible conference or something. I mean, I walked out of there. It was cathartic. The most cathartic experience I've had since I went and saw that Beekeeper movie back in January. Now, a different kind of catharsis, right? And this is where the MAGA Trump voter just does 80s style revenge porn on the entire globalist corporatist cabal. And that was a different kind of cathartic. Okay, but that's the most cathartic I have felt since I saw that movie back in January.
All right, next up we go to China Compass, who says those in the path of Hurricane Milton should be thankful DeSantis isn't the presidential nominee, because if he were, there would be insane attempts to sabotage rescue efforts and cause more damage to life and property this close to the election.
That is a fascinating point. And another one I had not considered. I mean, my goodness. Could you imagine the politics of this back-to-back Category 5 storms and 21 million people in the path of that? Well, that's just the population of Florida alone. Then you have the Appalachia, the Carolinas, the Sun Belt there.
I'll sell only in that they probably would have attempted it, but he's got a track record by now. I'm just saying it wouldn't have worked. He would have turned it to his advantage.
Given his track record, yeah. I mean,
I can see why you'd think that, but I think this would be, man, that's I got to buy that. At the very least, I think that is a worthy observation for sure.
He would have He would have just gone Union docs on them, like, okay, here's the National Guard. How do you like them apples?
Todd, I think I don't want to have to do this in public because I already made it private. But clearly, you missed where I texted you that in exchange for the orange check, there is now a cap and a limit on how much moratorium, really, on how much you're able to compliment Ron DeSantis moving forward on the show. So
tough but fair.
Yeah.
One more real quick.
The orange check, it comes with pulp.
One more quickly before we get out of this segment. MC Kalip says Kamala's audition for The View went really well. She used just the right mix of vapid and annoying.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. From the America we live in. Yes. But there is a whole other America out there. Okay. And so I'm always trying to figure out, is this, a mistake according to how we still believe in our America? Is it a blunder according to what we still think in our America? Or is it a transcendent blunder regardless of which of the two Americas you live in? You're like, yeah, screw that noise. That's not going to work. I don't know. I tend to think it's the latter, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm not, because that's not the America that I inhabit, so... I'm looking at this thinking, how is anybody who's not an avowed communist voting for this? But at least 45% of Americans are going to. Hour 2 is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzen and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. We'll get back to buy, sell, or hold here in a moment. First, want to let you know we're brought to you by our friends over at Miracle Made. The outstanding sheets that I miss when I'm away from home, and they're just phenomenal. I have really enjoyed this partner since they came on board last year, and they did so in the midst of one of the hottest Julys we've ever had in Iowa. And last summer was the very first time I never had to turn the ceiling fan on to augment the AC one time, because the silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA that help with temperature regulating all night long really work. And then we had, of course, you guys remember during caucus season, we had that one of the coldest Januaries in Iowa history too, and it held up on the other end of the spectrum this time of year, right? So we're in the change of seasons right now. So you're running the heat one day. You're running the AC. We were running the heater for the first time 3 days ago when it got down to 39 degrees overnight. Now we're going to be running the central air tonight because we're going to have this afternoon with a high of 84. So you've got all these temperature fluctuations with the change of season this time of year, and those Miracle Made sheets, man, are still killing it. So if you want to try their product, they're so confident. It's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee, and they should be that confident based on my experience using these for the last year and a half. They're absolutely fantastic. So go to trymiracle.com/Deace to try the Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code DACE at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20% as well. So upgrade your sleep right now at trymiracle.com/DACE. Use the code DACE to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. trymiracle.com/DACE. Promo code DACE at trymiracle.com/DACE. Don't forget as well, you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. You can email us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And then also subscribe to our new YouTube channel, please. We're trying to start all over there with all the censorship that we've been up against for all the truths we've told. So at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you listen to the podcast version of the show, thank you. We currently have the highest podcast rating that we've ever had on this show, without getting, me being on with Tucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly or Glenn Beck or somebody like that. And then you kind of get an instant push, from being on with those folks who have some of the biggest audiences in our industry, just organically. The show continues to grow. So thank you very much. We're so appreciative of that. Please keep helping it to grow. Leave us a 5-star review if you dig the show. And then you can also hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, follow. And that'll make sure that every time we do a new episode, it shows up in your feed every single time. So thank you for all of that as well. All right, let's get back to it. Here's part 2 of Buy, Sell, or Hold.
We continue with Live Free, who says it's no coincidence that we never see atheists on the attack against Satan. They only condemn the existence of God for reasons.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. I mean, by and large, that's correct. I mean, but and I sometimes, a lot of times when I do the to be fair shtick, it's to be, a smartass. But in this case, it's not to be. To be fair, if you don't believe in God, why would you be on the attack against Satan? And I mean, we have one individual who has risen to prominence as an atheist on the right in the last few years. I don't know at all, never met him, and don't know his background other than he's an atheist. And he's been on the big time conservative speaking tour as an atheist. But I'm not really sure why. Because every time I see his content, it is to basically tell Christians to be less Christian. Am I missing something? You guys know what I'm talking about, that Lindsay guy. What's his name?
James Lindsay, yeah.
Yeah. Does he do anything? Or does the algorithm only feed me the times that he is lecturing Christians to be less Christian? Does he do anything other than that?
And I'm not trying to... He understands cultural Marxism to a T better than anybody, including yourself. And I'm not trying to say that to put you down, Steve. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to illustrate. He understands cultural Marxism better than, and articulates it better than I've heard anybody articulate cultural Marxism. And his solution is to basically run roughshod and make fun of and to try to downplay any orthodoxy that would confront it. Mm-hmm. That's weird.
That sounds like a psyop to me. Or it also sounds like something that you're limited. You can't rise, as I've said for many years, no man can rise above his own worldview. You can correctly identify evil, but without a biblical worldview, you will not be able to correctly confront it. You just won't. You just won't be able to do it. It's not possible. In an instant, you can do something effective, but systemically, holistically, you can't. You don't understand what it is you're up against. You can't. You're playing at a different. You're operating at a different level, and not the level that true evil really is. Which is why I'm working so hard and have been from the beginning of my career to bring a biblical worldview back into the mainstream as much as I possibly can. But then I had to take an orange check, and so we don't do that anymore.
I forgot about that. Sorry.
Right.
Jeffrey Whitaker says puberty is a human right.
Yes. Bye.
I mean, I'm buying. I'm struck by the fact that here we are.
Yes, we are.
Here we are. But yeah, I'll buy.
Next, Luke Taylor says, the reason some of your recent Bleep Lord Nefarious Says montages haven't hit as hard is not because the world is getting better, nor is it because of desensitization to evil. It's because a major election is getting close and Satan is trying not to overplay his hand in these final months. Once the election is passed, no matter who wins, the floodgates of iniquity will reopen like never before. I'll tell you this, I am buying that. And they told you that at the Democrat National Convention. Do you remember the soundbite we had of the, I think it was the Black Caucus, say, hey, yeah, we're close to an election. We can get your freak on after the election, but let's cool it for now.
And remember that there was a Babylon Bee video skit about this 4, 5, 6 months ago, right? Where Satan had a meeting.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
With like all the cabinet heads of the modern left trying to get him to simmer down, right? That was one of the videos they did. Yeah, I think there could be something to that, for sure. I think that I'm telling you right now, if Trump wins, everything that they have been doing here the last couple of years to artificially inseminate this economy for Biden and Kamala, they're going to pull the plug on all of that. I mean, they're going to let all of those chickens come home to roost. So be ready for that. And that could be the next COVID. That could be the next crisis. Something must be done. So we must take this dramatic course of action before it's ever been vetted or analyzed to see if it's the prudent thing to do and it will actually solve the problem. But I think they will absolutely, the regime, the spirit of the age, the swamp, whatever you want to call it. I think whatever they're doing right now to try and keep this thing afloat, I think they Thanos snap all of that and drop it right in his lap.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm selling on this. I think the fact that it is election season, peak election season, is why we can't see that it's just as bad as ever before. And that's one of the just as bad things. Listen, I read your book, Steve, and you were right. This is nefarious.
Which one? Orange Gods and the Men Who Love Them? Yes. Or was that another, or did you read another book?
That was a page turner, by the way. But no, this is nefarious. No. And he said, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And that's you're all kinds of reasons. Numb, comfortable. Well, here we are. We're in the cozy comfort of election season. Shirts versus skins. No, that's
Todd is basically like it's springtime for Hitler yet again. Yes,
it's as terrible as it's ever been. No one's taken this foot off the gas. They're just counting on us being stupid again, which they're right about. Which is why this is an election. This is the trial of the American people, and if it's the trial of American people, it means we are at the 11th hour, and it is in fact as bad as ever, and nothing's let up.
All right, moving on. P. King says college football should just be minor league, not associated with academia. I
could see that eventually occur.
It'd be more honest.
I could see that eventually occur.
Yes, and but then I'll tell you something. Steve had a good laugh at it, but when that happens, trust me, there ain't going to be no more winged helmets. There ain't going to be Wolverines. You're going to be called what did I say? The Ann Arbor dumbasses or something like that. Let's make it honest. Nope, no more amazing blue. I'm all in. Let's do this.
They announced today they're getting rid of national letters of intent and going to financial agreements, financial aid agreements. That's the next step into just putting players under contract. Essentially, a financial aid agreement basically is what you're being paid in exchange for your services. And so that's where this is going next.
This is all a sham. So yes, I want to see, I'm going to pop the popcorn. I want to see all of the sports pros who in the name of their beloved idol did this to their very idol and destroyed it themselves, not for good reasons, but for bad. Yes, then I want them to own all of it. I want them to, it's going to be the Columbus Bucknuts against the Ann Arbor Asshats. Go team! Nice job, everybody. Morons.
I am going to, Aaron, I would like you to right away look up, does anybody own AnnArborAsshats.com? Can you look that up?
That's what it was. This is all a lie. That's at least honest. Let's do that.
Hold on. Whois.com. I'm going to look up Columbus Bucknuts. .com.
I want some of those coattails too, by the way.
It's only fair. I mean, you came up with the idea. Let's see. Does anybody own ColumbusBucknuts.com? It is available, as a matter of fact. I can buy it right now for $6.
It's yours.
You know what I really should do is buy ColumbusBucknuts.org and just make it a nonprofit.
Oh, they would hate you. Oh, my God. Dace!
Hold on. I got to check with the Orange Man first. Let me text
Yes.
you. Go ahead, Aaron.
All right, next we go to Carrie, who says the Day Show needs to go ahead and put up their Christmas lights on the set. We need a little extra Christmas cheer to get us through the dark days.
No.
We might need it to ward off the wasps. Maybe we can psych them out into thinking it's cold out. If we put up the Christmas stuff, would that work, do you think?
It would work better than whatever we've been trying.
Let's get underground.
Yeah. It'd work better than whatever it is we've been trying for the last 2 years.
We're on our third or fourth pest control service here. All right. This one finally found their long ladder, so that's good, right? That's a positive development. You know what? Let me ask the Orange Man about that too, Aaron. Go ahead.
All right. Next, this is what I was talking about in the first segment of the show, an alternative hypothesis as to why Kamala is out there all of the time now. Tyler Brown says Kamala's media blitz is not a campaign Hail Mary. Their internal polling shows that the race is well within the margin of fortification, and this is their way of telling the GOP, look how bad our candidate is, and we're still going to win. That's Vanta Black.
That is pretty Vanta Black. It would also be pretty reckless because you are therefore exposing her prematurely.
Yeah, I'm selling on this. Yeah,
I'm selling on that. Yeah,
I think it's absolutely true. The margin of cheating is closing. And therefore, they are counting on the stupidity of the American people enough that they put them in front of Stephen Colbert Dancing Bear Act, and that their likability in the eyes of the masses is enough to carry her across the finish line right now.
Anything else to say about this?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sam W. says Americans will stop play of their favorite sport to look at a play for 15 minutes to ensure the correct call is made, but we accept our food, pharma, healthcare, and spiritual leadership with no scrutiny.
That's my boy. There we are.
That's well
said.
Nailed
it. Buy.
I'll buy. Yeah, I will buy. Yeah, that's well said.
Tom Gabriel, or Graybeal, I should say, Mount Rushmore of college football fan and band traditions. Mount Rushmore, Wisconsin, jump around. USC, the sword stab. Ohio State, the script Ohio. And Oklahoma, Sooner Schooner. Honorable mention, Iowa wave to the Children's Hospital.
I'm fine with that list. I'll buy it. I mean, I'm a little, jump around in terms of legacy isn't anywhere near length of time of those others. And I could put, Chief Osceola with the flaming arrow, there for Florida State, the Michigan Go Blue banner. But if your argument for Wisconsin's jump around is that it's the most recent of these great traditions, but it also created a sub tradition of what ignites the fans heading into the fourth quarter, and every other school is now emulating that to some degree with something like when I was at the Rose Bowl, Alabama and Michigan both did their fourth quarter songs. Michigan did Mr. Brightside, and Alabama did Dixieland Delight. And so each half of the Rose Bowl did that song heading into the fourth quarter. Nobody did that prior to Jump Around. That was kind of the OG of that. And so if your argument for putting that there is that yes, it's relatively recent, but it also touched off a trend around the sport, then actually I could see that argument, and I'm okay with it then. So I guess I'll buy that list then. Okay.
Well, I'm going to sell because I'm old. The jump around when I was a Wisconsin Badger did not exist. The there's the tradition then, and I've only been to one game since. But the Budweiser song, when you say Wisconsin, you've said it all, and the Wisconsin band is as epic as any band in the nation. So I don't know if that's nostalgia talking. I don't know if that's old man shaking fist at cloud. I don't know. I realize how big of a deal Jump Around is there now, but it didn't even exist when I was in college, and I'm 52 years old.
Okay. How long has the Clemson running down the hill thing been around? I mean, that's...
Oh, gosh, that goes back. I mean, I remember watching Danny Ford coach Clemson teams do that in the early 80s.
I mean,
so
a prime time...
It's been around as long as I can remember.
Night game where they actually, let that thing marinate and breathe. The bus ride from the players to the top of the hill, running down the hill, that's a pretty good tradition. Next, we go to Shay and James Moon. When Sharia law inevitably comes to the United States, here is the top 5 classic songs to play. Number 5, Kuwait a Minute, Mr. Postman. Number 4, Chic, Rattle and Roll.
That's great.
Number 3, I Want to Hack Your Hand.
Oh, my word. Oh, my word.
Number 2, Inagaza Davida.
Oh, that's very clever. That's clever.
Number 1, I Left My Hand in San Francisco.
Luke, you are hanging on by a very thin thread.
Shay and James.
And I dig that. Oh, sorry, Shay and James. And I dig that about you.
Welcome to the Homeland Security watch list.
Yes.
Well done, good and faithful servants. Yes, that's also Babylon Bee worthy right there. So that's about the highest praise I can give, man. That's well done. Yep.
That Matt guy says if Trump wins, we will be force-fed by Con Inc. media that the sole reason is we surrendered on baby killing and the rainbow jihad. Meanwhile, the swamp will get deeper and the debt spending will increase. If he loses, it will be because he didn't give in to it hard enough.
Didn't give in to what hard enough? That will be the explanation that he didn't surrender enough. If Trump loses, there is going to be the traditional thing we've seen all of our lives is the party that loses the White House unites together in anger, and their base is more energized than the other base, and they win sweeping victories in midterm elections, right? We saw this when Trump lost 40 seats his first midterm. We saw this when Obama got destroyed by the Tea Party in 2 midterms. We saw this when Bill Clinton lost 2 midterms. Well, Steve, I thought they won the midterm after the government shutdown. No, they failed to get control of Congress in both 96 and 98. Democrats did after that government shutdown. So all the tales you're told about what that means are all lies, by the way. And did you guys see the look on Mike Pike's face yesterday when I asked him, hey, when you started actually knocking on doors of people that in a suburban district, working class district that vote Democrat, and found out that it's actually the economic issues they don't agree with you on, but the cultural issues they do. Did you guys see the look of surprise on his face? Like, yeah, I was not expecting that. Yeah, because everything Team GOP tells you and consultants tell you is a lie. Okay, it's almost none of it's true. So, in fact, a lot of it's the exact opposite thereof. But if Trump loses, that won't happen here. Back to that gambit. This is going to be, the nuclear holocaust version of the Spider-Man finger pointing gif. The amount of fingers they're going to be pointed in every direction, and Trump will be among the biggest finger points. And the GOP, Republican Congress not shutting down Mike Johnson, not doing that will get blamed. Pro-lifers will get blamed. I mean, I think we all know Trump's not going to say, I guess I could have ran a better campaign and raised more money and, made sure we had a better turnout model. That's just never happening. And there's no market in Trump's self-reflection either. All right. And so and there's a lot and there's I shouldn't say a lot. There are several people whose entirety of success is pinned to their attachment to him. And they're not just going to sit there and let that go without a fight, right? They're not going to say, I guess I'm going to go back to being someone nobody knows again. They're not going to do that. And so it's going to pay for them to keep this narrative alive as well. So we're going to absolutely circular fire squad each other with machine guns and howitzers, while they're going to just, take ground. They're gonna finish sweeping the risk board. Well, they're not gonna pause and say, "Hey, we'll take a time out here and let you guys figure your stuff out." No, I mean they're gonna march to Babylon. All right, and so they're gonna do that, and we are gonna have gangs of New York level sectarian political violence on the right if Trump loses. If he wins, I need to know what's the makeup of the houses of Congress, because I think you'll probably see what you saw in Trump's first term. If there are things good that he can do unilaterally, he would. If it requires getting any movement out of Congress at all, probably not happening. They'll spend way too much money, but that's what most of America wants, regardless of who wins. There's a very small voting bloc that wants any form of financial sanity at all. But on the other hand, you'll have more secure borders. There'll be more stability geopolitically than what we are seeing now. So, I mean, I think it'll, for better or for worse, look a lot like what it looked like when he was president. And then you just hope and pray that when they drop their next scam cause celeb on his lap, that he learned his lessons and won't completely pucker in the face of the PSYOP the way they did it before. And I'm pretty sure everything I just said is Orange approved, right, guys? Is that Orange Man approved, everything I just said?
I think you should run that by him.
You don't think maybe I should have maybe checked with him before I said this publicly, you think?
Yeah. You
seem skeptical, Todd. You think your check's in danger. Go ahead. Anyway, your thoughts. Yeah.
Listen, to the degree that there's blowback either way, as it applies to these two issues mentioned by the writer, there's going to be all kinds of seeing what sticks and people ranting and raving and bitter, no matter what happens. But if the demographics, the inside baseball of this election that Steve will no doubt go into, these are obviously Christian issues. If the Christian vote is like demonstrably outside of the margin of error, different in any way, that makes it more likelihood that this kind of blame game will have some kind of staying power, whether it's deserved or not.
All right, next up we go to Lord Norway, who says Dace's theological certainties will result in some major surprises when he meets the author.
I would hope I would buy. I mean, I don't, first of all, God will never violate his word. That's his word. Like a man gives his word and we're made in his image, which means we're a reflection of him. So he's not going to violate his word, but I can't sit here and presume as a human being to know the entirety of everything in his word and what it means. So, and I can't imagine there's ever been a human being who's ever lived who could. Well, let me rephrase that. There's ever been merely a human being who's ever lived who could. We had one human being who wasn't merely human who could. So someone who's merely a human being, there's no one that's ever lived who could say that with certainty. They knew everything in its fullness and context. So, I mean, my guess is you don't mean it that way, but I will buy your proposition nevertheless. I'm only human. As Billy Joel once sang, "You're only human, hoot, hoot." Yes.
I'm selling this as needlessly cryptic and passive aggressive. Like,
Yes.
Tell us what you're really saying.
I've had a few people mention that I'm very blue today. I have to remember not to wear this shirt. This shirt just breaks my camera for some reason. I don't know why. It's the yellow. I don't know. That's why I'm so blue today, for those of you listening. Ryan, the Christo-fascist, says, Christian culture is a superior culture. Christians need to learn to say this often without apology.
Hard buy.
Yeah, buy.
100%. Absolutely. The word of God is the most superior revelation ever given unto mankind. And so therefore anything that is built or based upon it will also be superior to any of its fellow competitors or rivals in the same space. So,
but yeah, I buy, but it's not just the saying, it's the doing. We could use more of that. if you want a Christian culture, if you think it's awesome, what the hell happened, guys?
Well, we have
this ain't it.
Correct. Well, we're going to have to then also explain what that means. Okay, we have to explain what that means, and then we have to be willing to model what that means as well, right? I mean,
well, those last two things are the same thing. You explain by modeling.
Yes, you can. You're right about that for sure. All right, let's. Do you want to do one more? Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe we'll tease this one for the overtime, although we've got a couple of minutes here. Shalom says, the mantra, politics is downstream of culture, has been proven wrong by Roe v. Wade and Obergefell. Culture is downstream of legislation.
Oh, I can't wait to discuss this. Yeah, we'll have a good discussion about this for sure in the overtime today. And if you want to watch that overtime, by the way, folks, you can get the new Blaze Unlimited subscription tier we just rolled out, because it's going to give you more access to what we do here at the Blaze than ever before. Not just exclusive content like the overtime that we're going to do later today, right after the show, but also we'll introduce you to our new quarterly magazine called Frontier. It looks absolutely fantastic. And the debut issue has articles from Glenn Beck, Mark Levin, Chris Rufo, and more. You can get a limited edition founding member card that gives you even more behind the scenes content, VIP event access, and makes you a direct partner in our efforts to push back against state-run media and preserve this last best hope for humanity here, known as the United States of America. So if you want to take advantage of that new subscription tier and sign up right now, go to blazeunlimited.com/Deace to claim your spot. But don't wait. Founding member spots are limited. All right. So let's stand together, push back, and keep the spirit of America alive. Go to blazeunlimited.com/Deace to get started. That's blazeunlimited.com/Deace. While we're doing teases, I'm over at Decision Desk and looking at their current election forecast. And right now they have it 52-48 Kamala. They have her favored 63-37 to win Nevada, Trump 55-45 favored to win Arizona. These are battleground states. Trump favored 62-38 to win Georgia. Trump favored 64-36 to win North Carolina. Kamala favored 51-49 to win Pennsylvania, 62-38 to win Michigan, and 52-48 to win Wisconsin. Yeah. That is as razor close as it could possibly get. So what do we say about the bipolar nature of this polling cycle? We'll talk about that and more with our good friend Daniel Horowitz here in just a few minutes. Back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. Americans are tired and frustrated by the stalling economy, inflation, endless war, the relentless assault on our values, and they're also increasingly getting tired of supporting those who are funding these rot gut efforts. If that's you, and you're looking for options to not necessarily do business with those who hate you and your way of life, unfortunately, that option is not present in most of the enterprises we have to be involved in. But fortunately, one of the enterprises we're all involved in, it is, and that's with your mobile phone. Make the switch today to our friends over at Patriot Mobile. You'll get the same great service and network coverage you get from the communist companies without giving your money to said communist companies. You'll actually get better customer service because Patriot Mobile's customer service team is U.S. based, so you'll actually be able to understand them. And if you make the switch today, you can get a free month of service when you use my last name, or use my first name, Steve, I should say. Forgot which is my first and which is my last. Use my first name, Steve, and when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve, make that call today, make the switch today. You can keep your phone, upgrade your phone, keep your number, switch your number. They'll customize it for you and your family. patriotmobile.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve for the free month of service at patriotmobile.com/Steve. All right, let's welcome in the prophet himself of woe and lamentation. It is good to see you, brother. How you be?
Steve, I'm all right. Don't you long for a day where we will struggle to fill up the time, where it's so boring we don't even know what to say?
I know. I get texts from people all the time. Didn't you see this? Did you see this? Or you can talk about. I I can't cover everything. I can't do everything. So I want to do this for the audience. I want to take the audience into the private DMs of one Daniel Horowitz and Steve Deace as we go back and forth for the last few weeks, trading completely contradictory polling information, like things that cannot exist simultaneously in the universe. Okay. And I mean, we are less than 4 weeks away, and there's not even a definitive narrative about this election. I mean, if whatever narrative you want, you think Trump's going to get 300 plus electoral college votes. They're going to steal it again. Kamala's going to wipe up the floor. Trump's going to get a narrow victory like 2016. Whatever narrative you want, whatever, analysis assessment you buy into, we can find you plenty of polling outlets to give you data justification for thinking that way. I can't ever think of an election cycle like this since I got into this professionally where this is the case. We might argue over what the data says and means, but now we don't even know what the data is. We don't even know what the metric is. We have no clue whatsoever what the narrative is. Everything's completely up for grabs. And I want us to discuss, Daniel, why that may be the case. How much of it is that, for people that don't know how professional polling works, they're not just cold calling people, okay? Professional pollsters have what are called voter files. That's where they typically have an idea of who's voted before and therefore who's likely to vote again, right? Our voter files wrecked because we had this mass surge of mail-in balloting, and so trying to figure out who the electorate will actually be here come November the 5th is a lot more difficult chore than previous cycles. Is that part of it? How much of these are just COVID era psyops? The polls are the new masks are 100% effective to stop the spread of COVID, right? Okay. How much of it is it's just harder than ever to reach people? Is it a ratio of those three things? So let me bring you in now and get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of all of that. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everyone's groping in the dark. And look, between the realm of outcomes, we're not talking about 50 different permutations. All right. I mean, it's either, Trump loses by a little, he loses by a little bit more, or he wins by a hair. So someone's going to be right. And someone's going to be able to say, I was the best pollster this time. And the next time they'll be horrible, like we've been going through the last few cycles, really. And I think in that respect, we've actually seen that for several cycles. I think what it boils down to is this. Let's start national polls, okay? And I know national polls in themselves don't matter, but they are an easy metric to reflect what you think the swing states will do. And you basically have polls that have Harris up 1-2. Okay, the presumption of that is that would likely portend a narrow Trump victory. Trump lost the popular vote by 2.1 in 2016. For most people don't expect him to win the popular vote. It's hard to imagine that. And there's very few polls other than the ones that always tout the GOP winning, but have recently been wrong that show that. Then you have polls that have her up more like 3-4, which would probably hint more towards a 2020 loss. And then you have a couple that have her up 5-6 that would indicate the floor has fallen out from under Trump with some of these white college educated, and it's going to be worse of a loss. And then you have state polls that reflect all three of those scenarios, and they each contradict each other. So you'll have, congressional polls that show Trump doing phenomenal in some New York districts, better than Lee Zeldin, better than his 2016 showing. And then you'll have a poll from Susquehanna that shows a district around Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that Trump won by 4, which in itself was a bad performance historically, losing by 5. So it's all over. You have now Deb Fischer behind in some polls in Nebraska. You have Republicans getting slaughtered in most of the down ballot Senate races within the states that Trump needs to win presidential wise. Okay, you have all that going on. And meanwhile, you have the precedent from the most recent precedent where polls have been too bullish for Republicans. You have 2016, 2020, where they were too dovish for Trump. Okay, so it's pretty much anything you want there. There is a likely presumption that Harris has the edge on both the air war and the ground game in a close election. You do have to factor in that there's a lot of dead weight from candidates like Robinson and Kerry Lake and the Nevada Senate race that cannot help Trump. That's for sure. So there's everything going on there. But Steve, I want to culminate with two observations that I think have been consistent. Okay. Consistent in the polling, as consistent as you can get, and they're backed by results and observations we've seen in recent primary and general elections. One's going to be negative for Trump, and but it ties into the second point, which could be positive, and that is white college-educated voters. Okay, if you look at all of these polls, whether they're they show more of a positive, maybe Harris up 1 or Harris up 5. Nationally, they show the floor falling out from under Trump with white college educated. Trump won college educated whites by 3 in a very narrow 2016 victory. He lost them by 3 in 2020. Therein lies the contours of a loss and a victory. Now, you could suggest that he could afford closer to a -3 than a +3, given a realignment a little bit of non-whites and maybe squeezing out some extra juice, the few non-college whites that didn't yet realign have realigned. So maybe he doesn't have to perform as well as he did in 2016 with college-educated whites. But almost every poll shows him losing it by 8, losing it by 15, losing it by 20. It's really hard to see how you remake another electorate to make that up. That's what concerns me. And I think that's what a lot of the recent elections the last few years has demonstrated. With that said, Cook Political Report just came out with an analysis. Now, it's behind a paywall, so I couldn't read it. But it's backed by a poll that they have in-house that basically showed Harris up 7 among high-propensity voters. But if you throw in unreliable voters or low propensity, whatever they call them, Trump's up 7. And I think that's really what the Trump campaign is hanging their hat on. And it would explain why Republicans are getting crushed in special elections. There's a mismatch in terms of primary turnout because, the low turnout voters are not going to turn out in primaries. They're not going to turn out in special general elections. The question is, such a hyped presidential general election, is there this cadre of new voters that Trump has gotten to offset what clearly he has lost to some degree, probably even worse than 2020? And I think that might explain some of the discrepancy in the polling.
So here are the two things that I am wrestling with the most that are not in dispute. That Donald Trump is polling ahead of where he was at this juncture of his previous 2 races. That is not in dispute. What could be in dispute is why. But the fact that he is, and by several points, and as you well know, 3-4 points in a general election is like tens of millions of votes. Okay, that is not an insignificant amount of people. All right, so that's number one. Number two, for the first time, he's polling ahead of the broader GOP brand. He's been ahead of the generic congressional ballot for Republicans this entire cycle. And he's always polled worse and then performed worse on election day than the broader GOP. As you go back to the GOP Senate candidates, all did better than Trump in 2016, for example. Republicans gained in the House despite what happened in 2020, for example. So those are two new constants. They're not variables. Those are facts, at least from the data. They're the facts based on the data they're giving us. And I'm trying to contemplate why that might be the case, because one thing I don't think there's any possibility is the reason why is that a bunch of these people who hate our guts and would pry our jaws open with the jaws of life and mainline mRNA-based urine right from the tips of their phalluses and tell us it's raining right into our mouths, now suddenly contemplate that their credibility is at stake, so they're oversampling Trump voters. I don't believe that for a second. I won't even entertain that for a second. I think that's just beyond farcical. So then what are the potential reasons are there that those two constants exist? One of them we came up with on the show with help of a listener the other day. Is it X? X is, you still only have 25% of Americans that are on this platform, but it's the largest generator and aggregator of political content in America. All right. Or in the world, probably not just America. And obviously the righty audience on this platform is way more pro-Trump than the overall GOP. And there's less censorship of Trump and his base and his ideas and his supporters than there was under the previous ownership. So is that worth a couple of points? I don't know. It might be. That's something to contemplate that I had not previously thought of. But there has to be reasons why those two things are the case.
So I'm going to disagree with the premise a little bit just based on some new facts. I mean, agree, but also disagree a little bit. Just on some of the new data is showing that that's not necessarily true. On the House level, I actually think the generic ballot is moving pretty closely to president. A lot of them have Dems up 1 or 2 now, and it's actually pretty close. And I think the understanding is that the House will probably rise and fall based on the presidential result. As far as the Senate races / gubernatorial races, so one thing you do have to keep in mind, there's 2 factors: incumbency and then also just a lack of name ID. And, so early on in the cycle, are you going to vote for X Republican? I don't know. I mean, like we saw in the primaries, to the extent there was any intensity and pulse among Republican voters, it's all for Trump. But as time has time has gone on, you actually see it closing, and they're getting, especially in the Rust Belt states, they actually are coming pretty close. For example, the Republican McCormick was behind Casey by double digits, okay? But that was going to eventually realign once time comes due for the presidential election, because you're not going to have such a gap. And I think you're seeing that now. Now, with that said, Casey is a very popular incumbent, and his father is a household name in Pennsylvania, whereas the presidential is, doesn't hinge on local incumbency. It's wide open. Ditto for Wisconsin is also an incumbent. Now, Michigan is an open seat, and you're seeing it tighten a little bit, but Trump has consistently in most polls been behind a few points there, so it's kind of close. For Kerry Lake and Robinson, I mean, I think that speaks for itself. That's the candidate quality issue / scandal or whatever. Maybe true for Nevada as well. So I don't know if in the end you're going to see such a gap. It looks like Sheehy, the Republican for Montana, is running away with it. We'll see what happens in Ohio. He's definitely been running behind. But remember, Brown has been this guy that's been able to. He's been a longstanding incumbent, continuing to get some of those stubborn white, non-college educated voters with his pseudo-populism. So there's a reason for a lot of this. And I think when you look at it in totality, there really isn't that much of a gap. And it wouldn't shock me if come election day, it closes completely.
All right, I've got a minute here. I'll give it to you. Anything else that you want to say about this particular topic before we sign off?
Some people aren't going to like this, but the die is cast. What's going to happen is going to happen. We need to be like DeSantis with the 50,000 linemen. Okay, the hurricane's going to come, but the question is preparing for the aftermath. And I think that's really what we need to start building for either scenario, different things we need to do. So we're not just caught flat-footed and we don't know what to do as the Democrats march the ball down the field, whether it's preparation for Trump cabinet positions for a 100-day agenda, whether it's preparation no matter what we need to do in the red states, particularly if Harris wins. I really don't think there's much we can do to influence the outcome at this point. The other thing I will mention we didn't have time to get to is you need to make sure you educate even your Republican friends and relatives how to vote on these ballot measures in your state.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah. Next week for sure, make sure you ping me and we highlight those. You did a great piece
our voters
the other day at the Blaze about it, so yes.
Even without changing hearts and minds, a lot of our people, we've noticed this, they don't know what's a yes and what's a no. They don't even know what they're about, and that's a big problem.
Yep. And Daniel did a great piece over at The Blaze about this the other day. I got it linked on all my social media accounts as well. But yes, next week for sure, let's highlight some of those, Daniel. Always good to see you, brother. Thank you.
Take care. See you next week.
You bet. All right, gentlemen, you get the last word here. We've got about a minute left. Any final thoughts?
Oh, we're going to be caught flat-footed because setting our feet is what we do. Good grief. Daniel's right. Of course, no shot of that happening, though.
I want to go back to what I said. The only reason why we're even having this conversation, it should not be a close conversation, just from an ability standpoint with Kamala Harris, not to mention she's a rabid communist. The only reason why this country is seriously entertaining her as an option, why they even get to foist her up as an option, is because their opposition is full of cowards or couch potatoes. That's the only reason. So, again, just underlining this as many times as we can. It's really not about the policies. It's really not about the candidates. It's really not about the personalities. It's about the people. Who are we?
Indeed. And we're going to get at least some of an answer to that coming up here in 27 days. Romans 8:28.